Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Liz Joldeski, Executive Officer with Mainstreet Australia, and welcome to our next edition of Meet the Main Street Manager. We're loving all of the engagement and our feedback that we're getting on this new campaign. And today we're absolutely thrilled to have Amanda McEvoy, who is the Executive Officer from Launceston Central, joining us. And we will be delving deep and meeting her and learning lots about her background and how she came to the role, what she enjoys in the role, and also learning a little bit more about Launceston itself. So welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Liz.
Great to have you on board. So yeah, firstly, if you could tell us a little bit about the area that you manage as a centre manager, Launceston Central. Love to learn more about, how big it is. If you could tell us a little bit about what's on the main streets, how diverse is the retail mix and the offer, and what are some of the current trends and things that you're seeing there at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's all happening in Launceston. We're obviously tucked away at the very end of the world, at the bottom of Australia, on an island, and and the smaller city compared to Hobart. So we often are going, don't forget about us down here. But I think more and more Launceston's getting recognised for all of the amazing things that we've got. We've just been designated a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. Which is a huge recognition of what
Wow.
is happening here. Yeah, it's enormous. There's only two
That's
in Australia, Creative Cities of Gastronomy, and it's a part of a network now across the world. And we've got that on the basis of proving that we're working in areas that are committed to some of the UNESCO sustainability goals.
right.
And that's based on things like food security, and low and food miles, food justice, food seasonal produce, the closeness of our producers to our restaurants and cafes, those types of things. So there's been a really interesting journey because there's all of that sort of side of it, but there's also then the opportunity that's given us for tourism, for locals, for job opportunities. So for Launceston
Fantastic.
itself, it's given a real focus and a real breath of fresh air to everybody. So that's been fun because we've been able to leverage off that.
What a fantastic accolade.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah, no, there's lots of people who've done a lot of hard work on the lead up to that. So it's very exciting for the city. So, and that's
Yeah.
what our area is. Our area is on the Tamar River. It's a very
Yes.
beautiful area. It's very picturesque and green, as everywhere in Tassie is. And Launceston is a beautiful little city. I would encourage anybody to come and for a weekend or a week. It's traditionally been a lot of people fly into Launceston Airport and then head out to Cradle Mountain or the East Coast and those types of things. But we're increasingly seeing more people stay in the city. We've got a
Yes.
lot of heritage. We're the third oldest city in Australia, so our buildings are beautiful. And one thing that Launceston Central did was work with them. We approached the Historical Society. They had a walk, and I actually did it as a mum on a parent help trip. And we went and we printed off the notes from the Historical Society website, and the teacher went along and we stood in front of the buildings and read a bit of the history. And as I was doing it, I was thinking, gosh, all of this information is really interesting and we need to get it out more. So I reached out in my role to the Historical Society and asked them whether they would consider doing another walk through the actual city centre.
Right.
And they did. And it's now on an downloadable audio app called See Ya on the Road. And the last 2 years, it's been the most downloaded walk on their app in Australia. It's
Oh,
incredible.
wow.
Yeah,
Another accolade.
yeah. So and a totally unexpected one, but that says how much beautiful history and people who come here to appreciate it as well. So yeah, those are two of our big
Absolutely.
things. Yeah, um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah. And
it's been fun.
also adding to that list of accolades, we can't not mention the fact that you won 2 awards last year at the Mainstreet Australia Awards, as well. So congratulations again for actually it was 3, I
It was
think.
3, yeah. It was 3. Unexpectedly as well. Yes, it was 3. No, I was starting to get a bit embarrassed by the time we got up for the third award.
Congratulations for that as well. Look, let's just move on. So you touched on Launceston Central. So you're the executive officer with Launceston Central. And I think for our members and stakeholders, it'll be great to just hear a little bit about the governance structure. So who is Launceston Central, and how is the organisation funded, and what's your role within it, and how many staff do you have? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's actually a really interesting journey that we've had, especially in the last sort of 5 years or so. So it's actually one of the oldest traders associations, essentially, that exists in Australia. And I sort of have had that verified a few times with people going, wow, you know, you were set up, it was 1988 we were set up. And
Wow.
recently we hosted Ryan Smoller, who is the head of placemaking US, and he spent 4 or 5 days with us in Launceston, which was just super special.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
his feedback, you know, so far as he knows, with the global sort of role that he's got, I think it was somewhere in Canada, he said, was in the late 70s was the very first time that a formal group came together as a retail and business and street activation type of group.
Right.
Which of course we know as bids these days. So we were talking about, there's us and there's Geelong Central Marketing that operate in quite a similar way. But there's not an awful lot of companies that are registered like we are, and funded like we are. So when we were set up, we had a levy was introduced, and the levy was paid by the tenants or the owners of the buildings within the very city centre. They literally drew a sort of 4x4 grid of the blocks in the city centre, and it was led in that way. And the levy was on top of the commercial rates, and the council pulled that together, and that's what created the funding. So we were very much a member-focused organisation. So we had our own board of directors, and our own independent governance, registered as a not-for-profit incorporated association, and worked with advocacy for the business members, advertising, promotion. We were called City Prom, so which stood for City Promotions, and there was lots of cool adverts that we've got in the archives that we drag out sometimes, with people with lots of 80s curly hair and shoulder pads, shopping in Launceston, which is fun. But then it needed a review, because we were limited to the people that we could support in terms of the businesses, to that sort of small central geographical area. And we had some fabulous businesses and great pubs playing live music just on the periphery, and we were in the city centre, but they weren't part of the City Prom area, so we weren't able to engage with them because of the funding model. So we went through a rigorous and long, with an independent review and a reply from us, really flying the flag of the things that Mainstreet Australia stands for, about the continuation of being independent and the importance of having a separate champion that stands away from government policies and things like that, so that we can actually be agile and move quickly, and all of those advantages. So it's come out that now we're funded directly from council, from our city council, which is wonderful that they see the value in that investment.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they've widened our boundary, as it were, so that we can now engage with businesses in the whole of the real sort of city centre. So it's been a really exciting journey, because it involved a rebrand, a new website, engagement with new businesses.
Fantastic.
It's been a few years.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's given you the security to do some real, forward, planning, and some, strategic, thinking around what new initiatives you can implement, with some, real security that you've got that support and that collaboration with council. So that's a fantastic outcome. And what I might also add is it is quite a unique model. I think there wouldn't be many other examples of your type of governance model in Tasmania, if I'm correct.
No, we've got our friends in Hobart have Hello Hobart, but that's run from within council. So it's quite different.
So really, strong leadership. So kudos to the stakeholders in Launceston, and it is akin to, there are like models around Australia. So in Victoria, we've got special rates and special levies. And then in New South Wales, they're currently looking at introducing CIDs, which is community improvement districts. So there are different models along these lines, but I guess where we fall behind internationally is that we don't have this consistent model like BIDS, which is definitely most used in America and in Canada and the UK. And I think that does put us at a bit of a disadvantage. Would you agree with that, Amanda?
Yes, because I think having a norm, if you like, a sort of model that we can follow and apply to each different town, place, suburb
Yeah,
is really important, because there's no point in reinventing the wheel. We know what the
absolutely.
advantages are and what the outcomes are. And in fact, a lot of the work I've done now in the last sort of 2 years has been looking at the measurables, the positive impact, and being able to measure the impact of what we have
Yes,
and what we do. So a lot of that scientific evidence is there now. So it's very
it's
easy
so
for me to go to
important.
council or the businesses and say, right, well, when we do A, B, and C, these are the outcomes. This is the change in footfall. This is what we can tell about the change in visitation, expenditure, etc., etc. And obviously, that's a whole area in itself, and a lot of
So
my role has
important.
moved into that space.
How
Yeah.
how do you getting into the nitty-gritty, how do you actually measure that? And is that on an annual basis? Or yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how you do that work? Because that is so important, being
Yeah.
able to report back to your stakeholders and everyone that yeah, the model is actually working and it is of benefit to the local businesses and the broader community.
Yeah, that's right. So that's been a journey in itself, and I have to admit, it's very much my leadership style, but the sort of that trial and error. That I'm not frightened to give
Yeah,
something a go, and then sometimes it really works, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think you have to push the boundaries and try different things to be able to find those winning solutions. So we're lucky that the council has invested in some device counter technology. So there's points in the
right.
city where it will measure foot traffic as it goes around based on
Yeah.
devices. So it's not absolutely accurate in terms of if you had an Apple Watch and an Apple phone, for example, it would register
Yes.
two. But then obviously kids who might not have any device, it wouldn't register at all. So, but what it does is gives us a base level for comparison. So we have a
Sure.
big annual shopping day that's run in our city for 31 years. It was always called Crazy Day, and it's now called Super Sale Saturday, which was only a couple of weeks ago. And it's a huge day in Launceston. We got a lot of people from the northwest coast drive down to come shopping. It's a big bargain day. We put on lots of family fun entertainment. And what we can do
Right.
each year is we can now get the device counter data and compare it to both Super Sale Saturday or Crazy Day the previous year, compare it to an average Saturday in March, and then compare it to an average Saturday across the year. So it actually gives us that measurement. So if we're spending this much on advertising, this many hours on involving stakeholders and collecting those offers, and we put that out in the press and online, and what we're paying to organise the event overall, and then look at how many extra people we can measure that. So that's important. Um,
Yeah.
Economic data, and I'm interested to know if you know about what anyone else is doing around this, because I know that there's organisations that can monitor both banks and independent organisations that just sell to councils as well, for spend data. But it's quite expensive to invest in those systems, and that's one thing we haven't quite landed on. We do a lot. Every event we do a post-activation survey, and we really push our members and have quite a strong relationship with them based on, we want your feedback. We can't
Yeah,
deliver
yeah.
things to you unless you're telling
Absolutely.
us whether it's worked or not. And we
Yes.
beautiful size Launceston, because we can get around a lot of the people and actually talk to them face to face. There's
Yeah.
lots of anecdotal feedback, but that's interesting, the economic data spend.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you
You're
know
right.
about what people use for that?
Yeah, so there are it is available, but it's not, widely or freely available. So as the one that comes to mind, I'm not sure if you've heard of Spend Map.
Then Matt,
Spend
that's
Map by
right. Mm.
Geographia. That's the one that we know is most, widely used. So I guess that's definitely something that's on our agenda, Mainstreet Australia's agenda, in terms of how do we make that data around spending and spending for local Main Street or local shopping precincts as distinct from shopping centres. How do we get that and make it available? It's really hard. The data and the evidence side of things is a big gap for our sector, and it's definitely something that we're looking at how can we, leverage it to make it more widely available for our members and our stakeholders. So watch this space.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to you now. I think thank you so much for that very, thorough overview of Launceston and the area and the actual organisation. But what about you? Let's hear about your own personal journey and how did you become a Mainstreet manager? How did you?
It's not on the list of jobs when you leave school, is it? That's you might want to pick from.
Maybe it should be. Absolutely,
I think it should be. Yeah, we
Yeah.
every main street needs one. So yeah, that's where we're working together to try and make that happen across Australia with
Let's
Mainstreet
do
Australia.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my vision for success. It was completely by accident. I'd love to say, oh, it was something I was always, had my eye on and wanted to do, but it was completely by accident. And my background's in corporate recruitment. I worked for 12 years for
Right.
a global recruitment company doing executive recruitment. And then I had 3 kids in 5 years, which slowed down the career slightly. And I chose to stay at home with them for a little while. But we've moved around a lot in Australia because my husband's job. And then we got to the point where we said, right, we just want to settle down and put roots somewhere that's community, that's really lovely size, that we can actually feel part of, the people around us and local school, be involved in the local school and those types of things. So we ended up picking, we lived just north of Launceston. And then as my youngest started full-time school, I thought, oh, what am I going to do here? And I definitely need to be back at work. My brain's working. And I'd done a lot of voluntary work in between and stuff with the school association and parents and friends and all that sort of stuff. And also my husband was military, so I'd done a lot of work with defence family groups as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I volunteered for a couple of roles, and through that sort of happened to say, oh, if there was a job 2 or 3 days a week, I'd be interested if anyone knows of one. And then I ended up getting a job with a spreadsheet, writing down all the names, addresses and emails of all the shops in Launceston to update it in an audit for CityProm at the time.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a very humble start, and
that's where it all started
7 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
And I ended up my boss ended up moving on within the first 18 months of me being there, and it was kind of right place, right time, and I just love the space. I love dealing with all the shop owners. I developed a strong relationship with them over my first year here. There was a lot of legacy type stuff with their, how the organisation had evolved. So talking to them about what they needed now and looking at contemporary ways of doing things. And then the restructure has given us a real opportunity to stand back and go, right, we want to be on the cutting edge of what we know is working across the world to reinvigorate city centres. So so that's where it started, and I've built a great team, and
and so 7 years later, here we are. And tell us, so what does the whole job entail? So what do you do, and what is your work plan? What are your what are your objectives, and what does a general sort of day-to-day look like for you in your role?
So the role of executive officer obviously reports to the board of directors. So the predominant responsibilities, which is all the good dry governance stuff, which actually I really enjoy, funnily enough.
The important stuff, the really important stuff.
For a people person, I'm surprisingly passionate about governance. So I do all the board reporting, obviously, and delivery of the strategic plan. So when we had the restructure, they actually dissolved the board that we had, and we had to recruit a complete new board of directors. So that was interesting, because then everyone had to be inducted, and they obviously had to get together and create a strategy for the newly formed organisation. So it's been amazing to sort of inherit something, but then also get the opportunity to start again from scratch, basically, and look at direction. So obviously delivering the operations plan according to the strategy pillars that we have. But also, as with every not-for-profit, we've got the funders to please as well. So we have a service agreement is the way that it's set up with City of Launceston. So we have a roles and responsibilities list, which is where especially areas like placemaking, where there might be things like street furniture involved or semi-permanent activation items. We've had to be quite prescriptive, I suppose, to make sure that we don't feel like we're stepping on each other's toes. And that's been a journey that's come out with a really positive outcome, because I think we've got very clear division of responsibility now, and that works really well. So we really lean into each other's expertise, which is really great. So there's that, and then there's obviously management of my staff. So I've brought a lot of the functions in-house. We have been using things like graphic designers and marketing people from outside, but I've got a strong marketing team now. And we have somebody running our socials, and we have a marketing manager who's just gone on maternity leave for the second time. But she's amazing, and she's really helped us work with all our brand, and she's an absolute dot the I's, cross the T's sort of person.
Right.
So she keeps our standards extremely high with all of the printed advertising and the collateral. And then I knew that part of the success that we were having was how close we were with the businesses, how much time we were spending with them and listening to them. So I recruited Maddie Bigelow, who spoke at your last conference, sat on a panel, because I was overseas, unfortunately.
She did a great job.
Yeah, she did. And
well, fortunately or unfortunately.
Yeah. It was just bad timing. I would have liked to have done both.
Yes, you'll have to come this year. Are you coming this year?
I am coming this
fantastic.
year. Yeah, definitely. But Maddie's our people and promotions. So she's amazing, and just has that real energy and down to earth and passion for Launceston and its people. So she really will go the extra mile to deliver and really try and help out the businesses however we can, and make sure we're doing things that work for them. So I've got a really strong team, and the final recruit I made was actually for this reporting element. So I've got somebody 2 days a week. We're almost all part-time, obviously not for profit. It spreads a bit better if we're all got lots of different skills on a part-time basis. And we've got a lovely lady who does all of our reporting, and her background's in economic development and marketing and tourism. So
that's interesting. I don't think I know of any other businesses. So her role is purely on reporting and or collecting data and evidence, and wow, that's fantastic. How long have you had that role? How long has
just over a year now, so about 14 months. And the quality of the reports that comes out, and it works twofold. Obviously it works to make sure that we're securing our funding and really investing in that relationship, and let them knowing the value they're getting. But also internally, when we come round to the next Super Sale Saturday, or the next North Festival or Christmas activation, whatever we're doing, we can pull out, and we've got the exact data of what worked, what didn't, why it didn't work, or why we don't think it might have worked. But it's all documented. So, and it's also really strong continuity. So we've invested a lot in procedures. So if any one of us did leave, somebody else could walk straight in and pick up that. All of that intellectual knowledge is there, and it's step by step to follow. So it's very easy to see what's worked, what hasn't, so we don't keep making the same mistakes again.
Oh, I love that. I think that's definitely something that we should be encouraging a lot more across our network. So kudos to you for having the leadership to implement that. That's great. Now let's just chat more about it's so obvious from chatting with you how much you love your job and how passionate you are about Launceston and the small businesses, but surely there's got to be some challenging and hard parts to the job.
There are definitely.
Tell us about those.
Okay, well, I think one of the main challenges, and I think this must happen everywhere, and I'd love to hear other people's take on this as well, but it's how many cooks are in the kitchen working towards the same areas that overlap, and whether we're really all working together in the best possible way to use resources, funding, and brain power to actually achieve things. So
do you mean external stakeholders? So sort of doing similar things?
We share an office here in Launceston with Visit Northern Tasmania, the regional tourism organisation. We obviously leverage a lot of the work that Tourism Tasmania does, and they have their huge campaigns. So, for example, we're going to winter now. They've got the off season, which is how they advertise to the mainland, come down to Tasmania in the off season. And Come Down for Air is their other big campaign. So sitting alongside them, they've got Brand Tasmania. So we've got our own Brand Tasmania with the wonderful Todd Babiak, who is just incredible in that space. And then we've got council, who also invested in a place brand too. So we've got a lot of different elements, and the regional economic development organisations as well, and their part to play. So I think it can get very messy, and well, obviously I look after Launceston Central. That's my team, my mission, my board, my organisation. But I've really had to learn how to lean in and develop these relationships, and dig down to find out, what's going on for you in this. What do you need? How could we actually make it so that we're working together to achieve the same outcome? Because there's so much overlap. And it doesn't matter to the consumer, does it, who's doing it, or what boundary they might have, or where their funding may come from. To them, they just want to know what's on at the weekend, where can I buy a great present for mum, for Mother's Day, and why should I should shop local. These are the reasons why. So the consumer doesn't care about all of that sort of stuff, and it does
Absolutely
play out in brands and messaging, and Chamber of Commerce again. So that is a challenge, not because no one wants it to succeed, but just because there's so many stakeholders to constantly be touching base with and working with.
So what I'm going to ask next is, so how do you get around it?
How do I manage it? Well, I'll give you a couple of successes that have worked. Have been moving into the shared office space helps, because that does break down barriers. There's no doubt that my team's the noisiest team.
I'm sure. I don't believe that for a second.
We're all very passionate, but then we've got Visit Northern Tasmania, do amazing work, and obviously cover the whole of the northeast region, but feeding in our information and getting and understanding what they're doing to promote Launceston itself as well is really important. But getting the audiences they speak to and the audiences we speak to, predominantly locals or visitors that are here already, there is subtle differences. And we've got more of a marketing budget, so it's really interesting to look at, well, how can we leverage off that to make that work for everybody. We have head of agency catches up once a month, which are really strong. We cross, especially with council. I mean, we need to be talking to people in events, in placemaking, in economic development, in infrastructure and planning, parks and rec. There's all of those things. So if you ask about my typical day, it's generally touching base,
juggling
and
all of those.
With all of those stakeholders, because if we miss a beat, then we're not being efficient. So I've set up some sort of groups that now meet once a month. Like there's a marketing meeting between council, tourism and us, which didn't exist before, and now we can all go, right, I'm investing this month. What are you doing? And several times we've been able to combine resources and save the ratepayer money. So that's the
totally. And it just makes so much sense. Like if you all get together, you're able to leverage the funds and the resources much better. So that's great. I love that. Just having a look at the time. Oh my God, it's gone so quickly. I'm sure we could chat all day. In fact, we should probably do a part 2. We should probably look in a part 2, Meet the Mainstreet Manager with Amanda McEvoy. It's been so much. It's been so much fun, and thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to close and ask you a question around. I'm just thinking of all of our members and all of our other centre managers, some of them who are new to the role, or some of them who have been in the role for a while. What's the one skill, or the most important skill set that you think you need to keep, developing and honing in on to be a successful manager of a local precinct like Launceston Central or a Mainstreet? What do you think is the most important?
Well, the boring answer to that is obviously strong governance, but the real success part of it, I think, is listening and talking to people and listening to what they say. So I'm as interested in what somebody's doing. I've met some lovely people through Mainstreet, Mackay and Yarra Council, for instance, that when we've spoken after the conference and the awards ceremony, and just hearing what they're doing, why they're doing it, what have they learned from it. And to me, the more I can hear from other people and connect at that level, and we can share that knowledge, the more rewarding it is, and the more we can all be delivering to our business stakeholders and listening to them and giving their ideas too. So that, listening, I suppose, is and communication. But for me, the key.
Yeah, brilliant. That is so important and a great spot to end on. So thank you again, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you. As you said, I'm going to hold you to the fact that you're coming to the conference. So I'll give another plug for our national conference, which is taking place from the 31st of July to the 2nd of August this year in partnership with the City of Stonington. So look forward to seeing you in Malvern later this year. And thank you again to all of our watchers and listeners of Meet the Main Street Manager. If any of our members who work in this space want to put their name forward to be profiled like Amanda, please contact us. You can contact us at info@mainstreetaustralia.org.au. Thank you again for your time, Amanda. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Liz, for your enthusiasm for the sector as well. It's great leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See ya.